into the drinking culture, the lifestyle culture. I'm from England, and the pub garden is sacred. Every
Right.
Sunday, we are in a pub garden. And if there was a CBD beverage or a THC beverage served there alongside a cider, I might mix and match like I would with wine and cider or liquor and
Right.
cider. It's honestly just another crop. And I think that folks like you doing something like this allows that normalization.
Yeah, no, thank you. And we've definitely seen that. And like I said, we don't get notes from customers telling us that they had such a great experience with our hard cider, but we do certainly get that from cannabis, and we see those repeat purchases. So that's wonderful. Yeah.
Yeah, that's nice. I want to move on to what it really takes for you to change, or I guess not change, but to add a crop to your farm when you're on this scale. You've got folks out there and they're having to pick the apples. And now not only are you having this massive manpower used in the apple orchards, but now you've got hemp crops and cannabis crops. And I guess you have to learn this ultimately a new craft, right? You guys are
Right.
farmers, but it's a whole new craft, really.
Absolutely.
What was that like having to learn this entirely new skill, this new plant, and who's like your head farmer? What do they do?
Yeah. Well, Pete Fleckenstein, who oversees our massive orchard here, he really took to it, and he's been overseeing our cannabis farm as well. Growing cannabis in the Northeast in New York State can be a challenge. We deal with so many swings in the weather, and high humidity in the summer, and then frost in the spring, and then again in the winter or late fall. So we battle so many of the elements. So we really don't grow for smokable flower here. We're really focused on growing biomass for vapes and beverages and all of that. But
Mm.
really just starting in hemp and learning how to grow hemp well was a perfect training ground for us to transition into marijuana. It was really wonderful to grow that for 3 years and then make the transition. But things like mold, dealing with pesticides that can be found on people's farms, and just making sure we created a clean environment to make the best possible product took several years. And I think, as we've rolled out some of our distillate products with vape pens, we've really been able to get a high purity oil that people really have come to love. It's really cool to think we're growing on the same acres where my grandfather grew apples, and just seeing that transition. I think he would really, he's no longer alive, but I think he would have really loved this part of the business as well, because he was, at the end of the day, he had a green thumb. He was a farmer, and he just loved growing things, and what he would have just loved it.
Really, I was going to ask that. I was going to ask what you think about, tied to the stigma, what you think that your family members of generations gone by would think about this. But, I've heard that from a lot of farmers that they probably just would think of it as another crop. If they hadn't had been through the war on drugs and the
Right.
dairy program, then, to most farmers, it's just another crop.
Yeah, I think, unfortunately in New York, I don't know how much you've read about what's happening in New York, but with the rollout of dispensaries has been challenging, just the small amount. And there was an expectation that we'd be over 100 dispensaries right now. So a lot of farmers grew, a lot of farmers who got caught up in CBD, and really the overgrowing period of that have unfortunately fallen in the same trap with cannabis. Now we're on our second harvest of recreational adult use cannabis, and it's been hard to see a lot of those farmers struggling. We're allowed to grow an acre of cannabis, which is quite a bit, and just not having the outlet. We're fortunate here that we have the ability to move our products into distillate and then sell it through our Heirloom brand. But a lot of the farmers are struggling. So I'm hopeful that as dispensaries open up across the state, that changes.
Yeah, for sure. Let's talk about the Heirloom brand a little bit more. So you have a bottling facility essentially where you're making the drinks, and this brand is now becoming sort of one of the veins of the business, really.
Right.
Is it going to be similar to the apple and the cider experience where I can do tours and I can taste and I can smell? Is it going to be like that on the farm?
Yeah. So, one of the challenges in New York is that you kind of have to pick your lane. You can't completely vertically integrate all the way to being able to sell directly to consumers. But, we have a beautiful facility right on our campus. And our hope is to someday be able to do that and do tours and let people experience the brand. We make some interesting products under Heirloom. We make a hemp derived THC beverage. We do a 1 milligram and a 5 milligram beverage where we can sell direct to customer. New York's kind of changed their rules on that over the years, so now we can only do the 1 milligram. But that's a way for people to purchase directly on our farm. Yeah, we built one of the largest cannabis beverage facilities in the country here at Beak and Skiff and Gen 5 Labs, and we really have the conviction to think, we really think this is going to grow to be one of the bigger categories in cannabis, whether when federal legalization comes or just building out the category in dispensaries as people learn about the category, learn about the effects. Maybe they don't want to smoke and they don't want to just eat a gummy. They want to do a more social activity. We feel like it's gonna really grow.
So, what sorts of products do you guys have at the moment, or what are the flavors of the drinks? Is it like a seltzer, or is it more like a cider?
We make a seltzer here. We have a full flavored seltzer that we do. So we do a pineapple mango, a black cherry. And these are actually flavors that we really developed in the hard cider business and brought them over to our cannabis business. So, working with a lot of the companies. And then we have a technology where we can actually add nitrogen to the cans and do a still product. So we do a lemonade. And then we actually just rolled out a honey crisp fresh cider, which really ties our two businesses together. It's a single varietal. It's just Honeycrisp cider, and we literally pick those apples from specific blocks on our farm. We press them, and then bring the cider over to our cannabis facility and infuse it. So it's literally like just drinking fresh cider infused with cannabis, and that's been a huge hit with our consumers as they and that's really given them the connection between our two businesses.
That's alcohol and THC in the same can?
So it's not alcohol; it's just fresh cider.
Ah,
It's fresh picked apples from our farm. And what was amazing with the last batch we did, it all happened in the same day. I mean, the apples were picked. The next day we pressed the cider and then it was brought over to our facility and then it was infused that day. So within 2 days, we went from tree to can, which is really cool.
oh my gosh, that is fresh. That must have tasted incredible. And while we're coming into the fall time, this is the sort of time that people like to go pick their own apples. It's about the experience of being on the farm and then sitting afterwards and like enjoying the tastes and the flavors and the views and the smells. And I love to go to places and experience something. And this is another part I think that your company seems to be doing is innovating agro-tourism
Right.
because, people come to stay there and people come to visit there and tour there. And again, you're just adding cannabis to the entire experience.
Yeah, we see at our main tasting room, we actually have one of the largest pick your own apple orchards in the country. So it's 50 acres just dedicated for people to come and pick. So we have 20 different varieties. And each week we actually roll out a new variety of apples. So this week we're picking Empire apples and we see over 500,000 people in about 2 months. They all come to our campus and they can come pick apples. They can taste our ciders and buy fresh cider. We do apple pies. It's really just that quintessential fall experience where people come. We've actually been voted by USA Today one of the top apple orchards in the country, and it's a pilgrimage for a lot of people in upstate New York to come to Beak and Skiff in 1911. And it's a beautiful campus. It's set right up on the hill. It's actually the highest point in Onondaga County, so you can actually look out over all of our trees. You can see out into Syracuse, and it's just such a beautiful view. We see a lot of kids from Syracuse University and the colleges come up, and it's fun. We take people out on wagons, so you get brought out into the orchard, and you can just spend hours out there enjoying the apple trees, and then come back and have a tasting. So
Oh, wow. My goodness. And now you're integrating cannabis and hemp into the entire mix as well. I cannot wait to come and visit. Do you guys have any events coming up, either this fall or maybe something in the spring that you'd like to tell our listeners about?
if you go to our website, we always have different events we're rolling out. We're actually one of the larger concert venues in upstate New York. So we do about 10 or 15 different shows in the summer months. So May through August, we do different shows with national artists. So we have between 3,000 and 5,000 people for each show. So we have a
Whoa.
venue right behind our tasting room. So just a great opportunity for people to come and enjoy a show. And we do things like whiskey tastings and we do pairings with different apples that we pick and our hard ciders and some of the experts here on our team will speak about them. So yeah, any given month, we're always doing something fun. And we hope to do more cannabis infused events in the future as the regulations come out, because I think that'll be a fun way to tie it all together.
Yeah, absolutely would be. I guess that's something that we're going to have to wait for New York State to do some policy changes before we see any cannabis events. Is that right?
Yes, I think so.
Yeah, that's a shame, but we'll wait it out. And I absolutely cannot wait to see that. That would be so cool. If I could like drink on some apple cider with THC in it that was literally picked 2 days ago and canned that morning while watching some live music on an apple orchard. Ah, that sounds phenomenal. I can't wait to see that.
That is the experience we like to create for people.
Love that. Awesome. Well, Eddie, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us. And hopefully I'll come and experience that someday soon.
Absolutely. Yeah, it was so great talking to you.
A big thanks to our guest this week, Eddie Brennan of Beak and Skiff Orchards. Make sure to read up on their entire story of how Beak and Skiff is incorporating cannabis into their line on page 66 of the new issue of Different Leaf, the magazine. You can get your issue at differentleaf.com. Next week, we'll be getting scientific about minor cannabinoids with John Nathan from Bay State Hemp Company and Natalia Lopez from Thai Stick.
I tried CBN for the first time, and the effect was so brilliant, but I was getting frustrated because I was like, wait a minute, this comes from the plant. I'm a medical patient, and now I can't find it. So it was years and years of research, and finally in 2019, I decided I wanted to form a company that specialized in minor cannabinoids.
Cannabis is native to East Asia, and they're exposed there to very, very high UV radiation. That made people think, okay, maybe the cannabinoids are to do with UV protection. But since then, there's also other theories because, for example, the glandular trichomes release sticky resin. More people thought, okay, this is a defense from herbivory because it stops some insect pests from predating on the plant. And things like terpenes and terpenoids, people thought were aromatic compounds that made the plant less appealing to herbivorous predators.
Wow. Subscribe wherever you're listening right now so you don't miss that episode. And make sure you're following us on social media at Different Leaf. And I'm on social media at Brit the British. Make sure you've got your full issue of Different Leaf, the magazine, our last issue before we go on hiatus. You can order yours now at differentleaf.com and on thousands of newsstands across the country. Find your local retailer at differentleaf.com.